Hello again everyone, this is Jay and welcome to yet another Linux command tutorial video. And in this video I'm going to show you the basics of the cat command. And the cat command is definitely something you'll want to know if you ever plan on doing any kind of Linux administration. It's something that you'll actually see quite often, so it's important that you know it. So what does the cat command do? Well, before I can get into that, I have to have a few text files to work with, and I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and create some right now. So I'll use the Nano text editor that I went over in a previous video, and I'll create a file called animals.txt. Actually, I'm just going to call it animals. The file extensions aren't actually necessary in Linux and Unix, but I have a habit of using file extensions. It doesn't hurt, certainly, because it tells you what kind of file it is, but in its basic form, it's not necessary. So I'll just create a file called animals, and inside the file, I'll just come up with some random animal names. So, for example, let's see, penguin, turtle, lizard, deer, and skunk. I have no idea. Those are the names of animals that I come up with off the top of my head for whatever reason. Anyway, so I'll type, I press Control O to save it, and then Control X to exit the text editor. And I need one more file, so I'll call this one people. And in this file, I'll put some random people names. So Susan, George, Charlie, Bob, Henry, David. There you go. There's some random names. It doesn't matter what you put in these files, just as long as you create two different files. So I'll press Control O, save it, Control X to exit, and now I have two files to work with here. So in its most basic form, the cat command will simply just show you the contents of a file and print the contents on the screen. So if I type cat and then animals, then all it's going to do is just show me the contents of that file. And the same with people, of course, because it'll take any text file as an argument. And there you go. So that's the basics of the cat command, but it does so much more than that. So if I wanted to see the contents of both files concatenated into one file, which is what that stands for, the cat command, then I can actually type cat and then both file names separated by a space. And what it did was it actually, as you see, it just showed me the contents of both files all at once. Now, it didn't actually change any of the files because it just showed me the contents, but it didn't actually modify any of the files that I currently have, as you can see. But what if I actually wanted it to? Well, one of the ways that you can do that is to redirect the output. So I typed cat space animals space people, but what I can do is type the greater than sign and type in a new file name. So I'll just type new file just like that. Press enter. So now if I do the cat command against that file, the new one I just created, it'll show me the contents of it, but it's going to include the contents of both files, because basically what it did was a cat command I used to show me the contents of animals and people, but instead of just printing it on the screen as it did before, instead I want to redirect that output to its own file, and that's exactly what it did. It created a new file with the output of animals and people, and now you see that there. Now, okay, so what if I wanted to add the contents of a file to an existing file and I didn't want to overwrite it? So say for example, I brought this command back up, but I wanted to output the file, the contents of animals again, and if I and I want to put it at the end of new file. So if I use two greater than symbols, what that'll do is it'll grab the content of that file and add it to the end of the other file. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I went ahead and created that file, so I'll just do this, cat new file, and the file is longer now because it has the content of animals added to the end of the file. Now, another thing to note though, if I would have just used the single greater than sign rather than the double greater than sign, watch what'll happen now. Whoops, I have to actually type correctly for you to see it. See, what happened is the single greater than sign replaced the entire text file with the output of animals. So even though it had quite a bit of content in new file, it just overwrote it, erased it, and replaced it with animals. So animals overwrote new file. That's essentially what you see. So basically the greater than sign, a single greater than sign will replace, but two will actually add to it. So for example, if I wanted to add the contents of people into that file, I can use two greater than signs. And if I do a cat on that file, on the new file, then you'll see that I have the contents of both in the new file. So in its basic form, this is how the cat command works. There's a lot more to it though, especially when we get to the grep command, which is very commonly used with the cat command, and I'll be getting to that one as soon as I can. So I will be revisiting the cat command. So basically, to go over this one more time just to make sure you understand it, in its simplest form, the cat command will just simply show you the contents of a file. So if you have a file and you want to see what's inside that file, you don't have to open your text editor to see the contents. You can simply just use the cat command to see what's inside the file. And you can also redirect output with a cat command. So for example, you can take the output of one file and put it into another file by redirecting with a greater than sign. One greater than sign will it'll replace the content of the file with the file that you reference. So as again, cat people and then new file, if I had one greater than sign, it would have just overwritten the file. But since if I do two, it'll actually throw the content of this file, the first file, into the end of the second file that I reference. And also, you don't have to create a file. You can just type cat space the name of the first text file space the name of another text file, and it'll just print the contents on the screen. So that's the basics of the cat command, and I'll revisit that as soon as I can to show you a bit more. But in the meantime, just play around with this and create some text files, concatenate them, and you'll learn it, and it's really not that hard. So if you have any questions, certainly let me know, but I'll go ahead and start making the next video for you very soon, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.